everybody, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to share with you several of the meals that we enjoy around here throughout our week. I'm getting ready to make lunch right now and I have some leftover roast in this pan here. I made a roast on Sunday for after church for an easy meal, and this is the leftover meat from that. I also have a few leftover potatoes in this container, and then I have some egg noodles that came from the food bank when we were still in Colorado. I'm going to cook those with the roast and make kind of like a stroganoff. And then I also, for myself, I'm going to just take some roast out and I'm going to eat it with the potatoes. So I'm also got some fresh cucumbers that someone from church gave us out of their garden and some frozen veggies in the freezer. So I'm gonna make some veggies to go with it, and that's gonna be our quick lunch for today. So to make this stroganoff, I started out with the meat in the pan and then I added a bunch of frozen mixed vegetables. I then put in about 4 cups of extra water because I was going to put the noodles into the pan and cook them in the pan there so they could soak up all the flavor of that broth. I also added a little bit more of the brown gravy mix, the same kind that comes from a packet, and that way my liquid would be a little bit thicker and have a little bit more flavor. But this is how it turned out. We had it with some celery, some cucumbers, and carrots, and then just the noodles. And mine I just had potatoes and meat and vegetables. Alright, today is Thursday, and for lunch today we are having some chicken breasts. I chopped some chicken breasts up into cubes, and then I've got some of that, let's see, where is it? This lemon vinaigrette dressing that we got from the food bank. We put some of that in there to marinate it for a little bit before we cook it. I also made rice right here, a big pot of rice. I made enough so that we have leftovers. I'm gonna make some like fried rice with that. And then I'm also cooking some frozen broccoli. I'm gonna put cheese on top of that. I've got these breads over here. These were actually hot dog buns. They got left at the church, so we grabbed them and brought them home. I'm turning them into breadsticks. I put butter and some garlic salt and some Parmesan cheese on top of those, so I'm going to go ahead and cook those in the oven. And then also someone from church gave us some of their fresh cucumbers out of their garden. So Cadence just got done peeling those and chopping them up for us, and we're gonna have those too. And that's gonna be our lunch for today. I'm getting ready to start cooking this chicken, and then I'm going to mix up some dough to make some sourdough bread tomorrow morning, and that way I have some bread to have with our meals tomorrow. These breadsticks were really easy to make. Just some butter, garlic salt, and Parmesan cheese. It got nice and crispy on top. For the chicken, I warmed my pan up and put a little bit of olive oil in the bottom, and then I just cooked the chicken until it was cooked all the way through. Some of it even a little crunchy on the outside, which is the way that I like it. My rice I had already made, and then the broccoli I actually ended up overcooking it. It was pretty mushy, but it all got eaten anyway because we hadn't had it in so long that everyone thought it was delicious. I did attempt to make sourdough bread after getting this stuff cooking, and it was a fail. It was my first loaf I had made after getting my sourdough starter out of the fridge, and it just wasn't ready yet, so it never rose. It was pretty flat. I ended up just throwing it away because it just was not good at all. So I will try again after this next week of being gone from the house, but with the sourdough it's just been difficult to keep up with it, so being so busy. This is a Sunday morning. I am putting beans and beans and little smokies in the crock pot. This is a meal we haven't had in a long time, but everyone actually really likes it. I started with 2 cans of black beans in the bottom of the crock pot, and then I drained these little smokies and added those on top. To that I put some salt and pepper, some garlic powder, some onion powder, and went ahead and just mixed that all together until the seasoning was mixed in really well. And then I decided to add a little bit more water just to fill the pot up to the top. This little crock pot actually was here when we moved in, and it works fairly well. It's just pretty small for our family. But I couldn't find my other crock pot this morning, so this is the one that I got to use. And I did learn that it needs to be cooking on high because I left it on low while we were gone to church that morning, and when we got back, the food was warm, but it wasn't overly hot. So thankfully the Little Smokies were already cooked. It wasn't something that the meat, like a roast, the meat had to sit and be cooked by the time you got home, because I think it probably would not have been finished if that was the case. But thankfully it was hot enough we could eat it and enjoy it. For this meal, I also made the rice that morning before we left for church so that it was ready to eat whenever we got home. And obviously it was cold. Whoop, about lost it there. The rice was obviously cold by the time we got back from church, but whenever you put the Smokies and the beans on top of it, it warmed it up enough that we were able to enjoy this food. So after getting it all mixed up, I put the lid on it and I plugged it in on the counter and scooted it back so that it was away from the edge of the counter. And we still had a little while to leave before church. Thankfully, I came over because I wasn't sure. I had used this crock pot on the high setting, but I had never used it on the low setting. So I didn't know if it was actually going to work on low. So I tried to do this early, and that way the pot would have enough time to warm up and I could check it before we left. So after I got it all plugged in, I let it sit for a while, and then I came back to check it and it was still cold. So I was like, well, I guess I need to find my other crock pot. This is not going to work. And then realized I had plugged in the toaster oven and not the crock pot. So I plugged the crock pot in and prayed that it would work and everything would be warm by the time we got home. And thankfully it was. And this meal just got devoured. There were a little leftovers, which are gone by now, but everyone enjoyed it. That is it for today. Thank you guys so much for stopping by, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.